Alright, hey guys, today we'll look at the Easy Flash 4 GBA flash cartridge. I ordered this from 3DS Gamer World. They're a seller that's in the USA, and they ship from the USA, so that should be pretty nice. They don't accept PayPal, just like a bunch of other sellers of basically hack products and stuff, because PayPal has been banning a bunch of them recently. They accept Visa and MasterCard. You can use a prepaid card if you want. I use my actual card after reading a bunch of reviews. They seem to be trustworthy, so I trusted them for my own card, and I haven't gotten robbed yet, so they should be pretty safe. Again, use a prepaid card if you're not sure. That's absolutely fine. If I didn't mention already before, this is not a sponsored video. I did not receive a review copy. I bought this on my own. I think I mentioned that before, but anyway. Moving on to the cartridge itself, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty cheap plastic, and if you look at it compared to a normal GBA cartridge, you'll see they didn't really shape it as well as they have in some other things. And like I said before, the plastic is actually really thin. I am not sure if that's to pack more things in, but even compared to the K1 or the K cartridge that comes with the REVO and stuff, which all it is just a glorified SD adapter, no hardware really in there at all. It's actually a lot thinner plastic, it feels a lot cheaper. But the plastic's not as important as how well the things inside it do. I tested it in a bunch of different GBA devices. I tested it in a Gameboy Advance SP, I tested it in a DS Lite, I tested it in a DS Fat, and it worked just fine in all of them. Unfortunately, as you saw, it did not work in my REVO, which was kind of disappointing. I was hoping to have something a little bit different I could just use in my cartridge and move over to my REVO and back and forth, and that would have been fine. But unfortunately, it actually does not work. Just to show real quick, yes, you can actually run certain emulators on here. The Goomba emulator is compatible, so you can play Game Boy Color games on here through emulation, not actually through the GB Color hardware that's built into the Game Boy Advance. Alright, now this install games on this thing is actually pretty easy. All you have to do is plug in your SD card, make sure it's in FAT32 or just normal FAT, and then pick a folder that you want to have your games installed to. You can have it installed to the root, but I decided to make a folder called GBA because I don't really like having stuff in the root folder. Once you do that, just go ahead and click the little button up here, and you can go ahead and browse for your files. It will allow you to set your save type, so just apply both patches, and you're good to go. Just go ahead and change the name if you need to. This name will be what it's called on your actual Easy Flash itself, so if you have a ROM hack, you don't want to keep the name Pokemon Fire Red or whatever. So once you have all your name in there and everything else filled in, and you make sure you check both of the patch boxes, you can go ahead and click this button to go ahead and send it over to your Easy Flash SD card in the folder that you suggested. When you do this, it will make a save file for you in the saver folder. So if you have a save file you want to import, it has to be a raw save. You can go ahead and overwrite the save file you just put on your SD card with your new one. If you don't have a raw save file, for some reason you're using an emulator or something like that that has weird save files, you can just go ahead and go to File, and then you go to Export and Battery File, and that should let you export a raw save file. One thing to keep in mind though is every single time you boot up your GBA, chances are whatever game you play last will have its save file overwritten with whatever was last played on the game. So if you want to prevent this, as soon as you start up your GBA, you'll see a message, and press and hold L when you see that message, and it'll make sure that it doesn't write the new save file to your SD card, thus overwriting the one we just imported. But that's only with your most recent game. Alright, sorry if that last example was a little bit confusing. Let's pretend your Easy Flash itself has about 3 storage spaces, not including the SD card. Every single time you play a game, if it's a smaller game, the game itself will be placed in your PSRAM, and the save file will be put in the save space. While you're playing the game, your SD card is not being used at all. When you actually finish playing the game, you can easily just turn off your GBA, or if the battery dies, your save is still in the battery back save space. So even with complete power loss, no power to the cartridge at all, your save file is still fine. When you start up your GBA the next time, what happens is it sees there's some data in the save space still, so it takes the save space data and puts it back on the SD card. This is why I said overwriting your save files can sometimes be a little bit tricky. If you're trying to overwrite a save file, say for Pokemon Fire Red, and the last game you played was Fire Red, that means Fire Red might still be in your save space. In that case, if you were to normally just put in your SD card and power up your GBA, your save file will be overwritten with whatever was last in your save space. To prevent this, all you have to do is press L, and it will make sure it does not overwrite with your save file from your save space. It will just be deleted. And on the left side is the last type of memory, which is the NOR. The NOR is a lot bigger than the PSRAM. It's about twice as big, and what it does is it allows you to play larger games that won't normally fit in your PSRAM. What it does is you have to manually actually write the game to the NOR. It's very slow to write the game to the NOR, but it will offer some advantages, as we'll see later on. After waiting what will actually take a couple minutes to dump a pretty large 32 megabyte game to the NOR, you'll be able to actually play it from the NOR directly. It'll function exactly the same as if you were playing it in a PSRAM. You play the game, the save data is put in a save space. The difference is, once it's been written to the NOR once, you don't have to write it to the NOR anymore. Unless you delete it from the NOR, you can keep running it from the NOR and get that really fast launch speed every single time. The disadvantage is you can only have one game in a NOR at a time if it's 32 megabytes. So that means that every single time you want to play a different 32 megabyte game, you have to manually go in and manually delete it, and then you can put a new game in a NOR after waiting that couple minutes for it to actually write from your SD card to the NOR. One other nice thing you can do with the NOR is if you want to get faster loading and you only play a few smaller games, you can actually write multiple smaller games to that NOR space. Yes, you'll only be able to fit a single 32 megabyte game, but if you only play smaller games, you can put 2 16 megabyte games or even 4 8 megabyte games in the NOR and have them all have your super fast launching speed. Installing games to NOR is pretty easy. All you have to do is just find it in your file list where you normally launch a file, and then on any size file, just go ahead and press select and it'll ask you to save it to the NOR, press A to accept, then you just wait for it to install. Once it's been installed to the NOR, you have to launch it from the NOR folder. When you're first browsing, you'll see all your NOR files first before you even have the option to open up your SD card. From there, if you press select on one of the things that's installed in NOR, you'll be given the option to delete something from NOR. And that's how you'll free up some more space to install other games. And if you're wondering how the REVO boots games so much faster in comparison, that's because it just reads the information straight from your SD card and dumps the game and your save file to its internal RAM. There's no battery backup on the save component, it's just straight up RAM, so that means that if the power goes out, then your save file and your game are erased from the RAM, and in order to get the backup of your save file, you just press the button combination and it takes your save file from the save space of the RAM and puts it back on the SD card. That's why you have to do the manual saving. Alright, enough of that technical stuff. Let's move back to gameplay. But from the games I tested, they all ran actually pretty well. So that's good, at least. But the main thing I bought it for, as you can probably tell from the title of this video and the description and stuff, is I bought it for fan translations and ROM hacks. And for those, the basic fan hacks and fan translations I tested actually worked out pretty well. Just the basic stuff worked fine. But the main thing I wanted it for was the total conversions, like the Pokemon mods. I wanted to play Ash Gray on this so I could play it on my Gameboy player and stuff. Unfortunately, that didn't even close to run out of the box. Major problems. I tried a bunch of different help threads. I spent a lot of time online searching for answers of how to get these working, and just nothing worked. They all just had a blank white screen every time I started up the game. So if you're looking to play specific Pokemon ROM hacks especially, you might be out of luck with this. I may eventually figure it out and I'll make a video on that, but for now, that's pretty much one of the biggest reasons I bought it was for those hacks. Again, a bunch of other stuff does work. Like I tried some Mega Man fan translations, some basic gameplay stuff. That stuff worked fine. I even tried the base game Fire Red and that worked fine. But the total conversions just don't seem to be working right now, which is a real shame because I spent $40 on this thing and I only expected it to do just one thing, and it only does about half of what I want, which is play the Mega Man hacks and basic stuff. So, as it is right now, I'd have to say that just keep in mind what you want to do if you're going to even thinking about buying this. If you just want to play a backup of all your games on your on one cartridge and don't want to buy a REVO or something, I say just it's worth considering. I mean, sure, it does take a lot longer to launch your 32 megabyte games, and even your smaller games take a while to launch. But overall, it lets you play on your original hardware, and it's still cheaper than a REVO. So, I mean, it's definitely worth considering. You just gotta keep in mind all the negatives and all the kind of issues this thing has. And yes, the battery will probably need to be replaced in about 10 years or so, since it is one of those batteries they use in like Game Boy Color games and stuff. Alright, so final thoughts. I was extremely disappointed to see this wouldn't work my REVO, because I absolutely love the screen on the REVO, and being able to play my games from my REVO and just instantly put it in everything else would have been great, but unfortunately that didn't work. What I do absolutely like about this thing better than the REVO is how save files are managed. I never have to worry about letting my battery die or leaving it on and my battery dying and not backing up my save file. I never have to remember to back up my save file in general. It does all that automatically. The other really nice thing about this is you never have to convert any save files. It takes raw GBA save files, you just put them on the cartridge, or it just reads them and it just works. That's really nice. But the downsides with the having to load games in the north, they're too big, take an extra like 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes even a little bit longer, just to play a single game. That's kind of annoying. If you're just playing small games or just a few games, it's not a big deal. And again, this is, from what my research, this is pretty much the best GBA flash cartridge out there. The Super Card is the other contender, the only other thing you can actually find on the market now. And from what I read, it plays a lot of games slowly, and the compatibility is not as great. So basically, pretty much all your choices are right now is getting either this or a hardware clone like the GBA REVO or K1 or whatever. So I'd say this is definitely worth picking up if you don't want to have to buy a whole new unit but still want to play backups and some ROM hacks. Hopefully I'll get Pokemon mods working, but I guess we'll have to see. Overall, I still think this is kind of cool. It does let me do a few things I want to do, but I just kind of wish it was a little bit better. And pretty much in my point of view, if you don't already have a GBA with backlit screen, just go with a REVO. I mean, the screen's better. It plays all these games without needing to be patched. You don't have to wait like forever just to play a 32 megabyte game. And it supports Pokemon ROM hacks out the gate. And also, this little unit, even with its backup battery, doesn't even support a real-time clock. So, I mean, there's a lot of positives, there's a lot of negatives. You just gotta figure out what's best for you. I understand a bunch of people don't want the K1 REVO because they don't want another Game Boy Advance. So they love their backlit SP, and that's fine. And for that, this does quite a bit. It just doesn't do as much as a REVO, in my opinion. So for me, I'll still won't even really be using this except for like maybe 1 or 2 games. So I'll probably keep using my REVO even with my standard GBA cartridges in it, just because it has so much better features. And again, nobody is sponsoring me to say this. This video is not sponsored by anyone. K1 REVO doesn't even know I'm making this video, and it's not even supposed to be a comparison. It just turned out to be that way. Alright, sorry for the super long video, guys. I hope this gave you plenty of good information. All the programs used will be linked below. If you want to make your own Game Boy Color games, I'll have a link to the YouTube video that shows how to make Game Boy Color games for this thing. And yeah, I guess that's about it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.